This may be a little bit difficult to see, but basically this looks at cost of production across the top from $200 to $400 an acre, and yields down the side, actual yields from 15 to 70 bushels an acre. And then what we look at is we adjust that for our typical 20% share rent. So for example, if your producer harvests 20 bushels an acre and he's on a 20% share rental arrangement, then he's going to get 80% of those 20 bushels, or 16 bushels will be what he would have to sell. The other 4 bushels would be what the landlord would have to sell as part of his rent. And what this does is just look at some break-even prices across those yield and cost of production scenario. The dollar values in parentheses are those based on the producer share. So the first dollar value is going to be based on if that producer owns the land, doesn't have to pay rent. The value in parentheses is going to be if he's paying a 20% share rent. And then the highlighted area just shows those areas that at this point in time, soybean prices are higher than those break-even levels. And you can see here, really, once you get to 20 or 35 or 40 bushels an acre, predominantly everything below that is going to be at a level that, break-even level that is below our current price projection for soybeans, and therefore projects some profitability for soybeans, not only for this year but for next year as well. When we talk about cost of production, we talk about what it costs to conduct some of these activities. I just want to mention at this point in time a couple of spreadsheets that were developed in the Department of Ag Economics. One of them is a field activity cost estimator. That spreadsheet will allow you to select a piece of equipment, and it will automatically calculate what it costs to operate that piece of equipment per hour and per acre. So for example, if you want to know what it costs to disc an acre of soybeans, with this particular spreadsheet, you could go in, select the tractor that you're going to use, select the disc that you're going to use, and it's going to give you an estimate based on your assumptions for fuel and fuel prices. It's going to give you an estimate on the per acre and the per hour cost of conducting or disking that field. And basically for any of the field activities you can think of, this spreadsheet gives you the capability of estimating a cost associated with it. The other spreadsheet I want to talk to you about, and is one that we do every year, is a spreadsheet-based enterprise budget. The ones that LSU AgCenter does, they are available in printed form, and they are put on our website. But I also develop a companion to that, which is a spreadsheet-based budget, which allows you to go in there and make adjustments into some of those activities that we assume. So if you use if you have a different herbicide program than what we assume, or different fungicide program than we assume, this spreadsheet will allow you to go in there, select the fungicides that you're going to use, and it'll estimate a cost of using those particular fungicides. And you can customize our budgets to your operation. Both of those spreadsheets have been mailed out to all our county agents. If you don't have those, or if you've misplaced those, feel free to give me a call and I can make those available to you at any time. Talk about risk management. Again, when you look at the increased cost of production that we've seen and the variability that we've seen in some of the prices that we've had over the last several years, margins continue to be relatively tight across all agriculture, and in some instances in soybean production as well. So when we look at other things that can help improve the profitability for soybean production and some other things that you might hear about as it relates to soybean production in the area of risk management, general area of risk management, look at the government safety net. That's predominantly the policy that we get from the Farm Bill. The provisions that we're hearing from the Farm Bill would kind of move us into a new policy environment, one from direct payments and countercyclical payments to one that's going to be more reliant on insurance type programs. So that's going to be a little bit different for many of our producers as we move forward in terms of the new policy environment that we may see. Marketing strategies, you may hear some about this. Cash forward contracts, hedging with futures and options contracts. I'm not going to go into the details of these, but just to let you aware, these are things that allow producers to protect some of those prices. Even though we've seen extremely high prices over the last several years, we've also seen a lot of volatility, meaning that one day soybean prices could be $15 a bushel, and 3 weeks later they're $12 a bushel. And so when prices get to very, very attractive levels, producers may want to try to obtain or try to hold on to some of those higher prices, try to protect some of those higher prices. And there are marketing strategies that producers can use to protect some of those prices once they get to a level where the producer feels comfortable with them, that he can make a very good profit. And those are those things that you may hear about in terms of different types of contracts offered through elevators, which would be primarily a version of cash forward contracts, and then things that producers can do through elevators or on their own in terms of buying and selling futures and options contracts. And then finally, crop insurance as well. Historically, crop insurance has not been one that our southern producers have been extremely active in participating in. There's a lot of, when you look at, there's a lot of reasons that that's the case. The low level of protection that crop insurance from most of our producers provides, and the high cost of that crop insurance, particularly as it relates to or compares to other areas of the country, has really limited the attractiveness of crop insurance to many of our producers here in the state. Having said that, with the changes that are expected to be in government and farm bill policy and government policy, we're going to probably see a heavier reliance on crop insurance moving forward. Currently in the state, we have two types of programs available for soybean crop insurance. One is a yield protection, which essentially only protects if we have a yield loss. So what happens is that you protect a percent of a historical yield for your operation. And if your actual yield goes below that guaranteed yield level, then you are paid some indemnity. You receive a crop insurance payment. That's the only way you would receive any kind of a payment, through the yield protection portion of the crop insurance. The other version, or the other option, is revenue protection. And again, this one not only protects yield, but it also protects price, and it guarantees a certain revenue level for your soybean crop. There's different levels of coverage that you can purchase. The problem with the revenue protection for many of our producers in the state is its cost. It's very prohibitive for producers to go in and purchase some of this revenue protection at the levels they would like to, at the levels that would actually provide a great amount of risk management or a great amount of safety net for them. To purchase that much or that level of coverage under revenue protection would be probably in most cases not feasible from a cost standpoint. So when you look at crop insurance, even though it hasn't been historically all that attractive to producers, now with some of the changes that we've seen in the government policy or in the farm bill, we may see an additional interest in crop insurance, or a renewed interest in crop insurance moving forward. So in summary, soybean production is a significant component of our agriculture industry, both here in the United States and here in Louisiana. Again, as we mentioned, it is the second largest crop in terms of acreage in the United States, and it is the #1 largest crop in terms of acreage here in Louisiana. It's becoming a more global market each and every year. Global competition, increased global demand for soybeans and soybean products has really made it necessary to look at a lot of different factors, not only domestically but around the world, and trying to get a picture of where we may see prices moving and this market moving in the future. Cost of production have risen and they're likely to continue to rise. Some of that's been a function of input cost increases, but again, also it's been a function of improved or intensified management of soybean production in Louisiana. One example of that being irrigation. Increased irrigation has increased the cost per acre for soybeans, but fortunately, because of the advances in productivity and the growing demand that we have for soybeans both domestically and worldwide, supporting prices, even with the higher cost of production, we've seen soybean production be relatively profitable over the last several years and profitable compared to a lot of other commodities that we've grown, as evidenced by the shifts of acres that we've seen out of things like cotton, rice, into soybean production. Now I'm just going to kind of leave you with a couple of references. A lot of this data that I've presented here today has come from, or the majority of it has come from these lists of references. All of these are USDA references or websites or agencies. The first is the Economic Research Service. That's going to provide supply and demand data. It provides monthly outlook reports for all of our major row crop commodities. It's got current data as well as a good list of historic data. So that's one good site to go. The National Agricultural Statistics Service is another great site. It has monthly crop production reports. It provides weekly quarterly grain stocks reports that provides a glimpse at the demand use for some of our commodities here in the United States. Also during the growing season, it provides weekly crop progress reports. So it kind of gives an idea, a way to track what's happening in those major soybean producing states in the United States. So that's another great source. As part of that National Agricultural Statistics Service, they have an online database. It's called QuickStats, and you see a reference for that. And that provides parish, state, and U.S. production and prices. So you can go in there relatively easily and get prices and production levels and yield levels for all the states, for all of our parishes in Louisiana, back, in some cases, back to 1900. So that's a very, very good source. Ag Marketing Service is primarily going to be a price database. If you want to see current prices for soybeans, for some of the feed grains, as well as some of the livestock prices and fruits and vegetables, the Agricultural Marketing Service is a place to be, and that's a price database that you have a link for yourself there. The Risk Management Agency, as I mentioned, the importance of crop insurance and probably the heavier reliance on crop insurance as we move in the future. The Risk Management Agency is where we get that information on crop insurance. It provides not only the types of crop insurance tools that are available to our producers in the state, but it also has a lot of information on how many acres have been insured in the state, both in the current year and in the previous years. The next one is our own is my department, the Department of Ag Economics and Agribusiness. That's where all of our enterprise budgets are located. You can go there at that website. All of our budgets are there, not only for soybeans, but for corn, cotton, grain, sorghum, wheat, livestock. All of our major row crop and ag commodities that we do enterprise budgets can be found there. That's a very, very good source of information in terms of cost of production and projected returns. If you want to keep up with futures prices and options prices, the CME Group, Chicago Mercantile Exchange Group, is where that information is available for free. You can click on that. That'll get you to the agricultural products section, and then you can just scroll through it and find soybeans. Click on that, and it will give you delay quotes of what soybean prices are trading for, or futures prices are trading at for that particular day. The next two, a couple of industry websites. U.S. Soybean Export Council, the information on quality, soybean percent protein and percent oil content in our soybeans versus the rest of the country can be found at that web page, along with some other statistical information. And then the United Soybean Board has an online market view database. That information that provides that I showed regarding how soybean meal and soybean oil use or demand has been in the United States was found from that web page. There's also a lot of other information on supply and demand factors in our soybean market, not only the whole soybean, but soybean meal and soybean oil as well.